I mean, listen, it's the holidays. There's some news popping out. We have a lot to cover, but there is something that is happening that is very interesting. See, money. I actually am looking for the report now. I don't remember who the heck sent this to me, but if anyone is familiar with the China Hero Project, it is something that Sony is doing, and it's a big deal. It's a big deal for them because what they have learned, or I think what the industry has basically taught Sony, is that the big companies, the EAs, the Take Twos, more specifically the Square Enix, are no longer doing exclusives with them. Now, it's not simply because they're not paying them well. The problem that Sony, or at least some of their partners, were seeing is that they would take the bag of money. And again, we have to go right back to Square Enix, because there is what I think really became an inherent problem for that company.
Yeah.
They got locked in to only putting on PlayStation, meaning no Nintendo, certainly no Xbox, and no PC. And what wound up happening is it cost a couple of their CEOs their positions. We saw some big changes happen last year and the year before, where longtime presidents lost their position because they bet on Sony. Well, this is interesting. And again, I got to give a shout out to C Money because he brought this up. I read this earlier and I'm like, does anybody want to talk about this? But I think, C, you're onto something here. So Push Square wrote an article, which I have in front of me, and it's very interesting. Now, this obviously is an Xbox show, so you might be saying to yourself, wait a second, Boom. Why are we talking about PlayStation? Because look, to be honest with you, if you talk about one, you kind of got to talk about the other. They kind of go like peanut butter and jelly, even though maybe they don't really, mix too well for you personally. But there is a real interesting point here. Now, the China Hero Project, again, I just wanted to reiterate, it's super important to Sony because of the deals that they were used to getting are no longer showing up. So they have to go, to other parts of the world to find games that they could bring to their console. And usually, almost 10 out of 10 times, it's exclusive content. Well, folks, this is where I think you're starting to see a change in what Sony is doing. Because according to Sam Barker, who of course writes for Push Square, the PlayStation 5 action RPG, The Godslayer, is getting full support from Sony, and they show off some jaw-dropping footage. And it has been announced for, ladies and gentlemen, PlayStation 5 and PC. But it's also been for Xbox. What do you know about that? Now, this is again, it's part of the China Hero Project that is funded and run by who? Sony Interactive Entertainment. And they find and publish games for PlayStation 5, but they're going to also be publishing that game on Xbox. Holy cow. I think we're starting to see a big change, and a lot of the ponies are not going to like this. I want to get your thoughts on this, brother.
Yeah, I mean, the funny thing is that, like, in the article, like, when they got announced for Xbox, they were like, oh, it's no longer part of the China Hero Project, and that's why it's there. So they reached out to Sony, and Sony's like, nah, it's still ours. It's still ours. We're still, we're still funding. We're still doing all that fun stuff. And it's just like, again, understand the funny part for us is seeing it slowly all happen. And as the denial that, the ponies have out there with it, that, oh, this is not going to be taking place. They're funding this game. And now all of a sudden it's coming to Xbox. And I think one of the biggest things that's happening And you brought up Square and Sega and all these other people. I think one of the things that we're noticing is across the board, as cool as a game may be and as exciting as the game may be in the moment that it's released, right? You really don't recapture that moment when you release it later, right? And I think what's
Facts.
happening is, a lot of these games, they're like, okay, yeah, we had them exclusive, but now it's finally here, Xbox players, finally we can bring it to you. We're so excited. And it's like, yeah, that's cool. But I think the majority of people is like, not, I mean, that's an old game. Like, that's cool that it's coming here, but like, we're going to be moving forward. And I think that they're not seeing the same type of, success that they would want to see. And they know that it's most likely linked to the fact that if they drop the game day and date, there's a better chance of that success being spread equally, as opposed to the one place you do it, they're like, okay, cool. But then when you bring it later, it doesn't really reach those same highs. So I think that these places like these China Hero Project, that was made for Sony to kind of have a in-house, like not in-house because they're not their studios, but like a way for them to get exclusives without having to deal with the bigger known companies, right? And China they are making a lot of kind of fresh games, a lot of times really graphically intense, nice looking games, and that are interesting. So they kind of had like this kind of grip on these games where they're like, oh, these games are coming out and they're coming out exclusively for PlayStation. That's what a lot of the games that the ponies are excited for and people have seen that look good were coming from. And now, this is kind of like the reality hitting, where it's like, okay, well, we got this game that we're making, and it's like, dude, like, we want to make money, and we don't know how it goes. We don't know if it was the company who's making the game like, hey, listen, we really really want to put this game everywhere, or you know coming to Sony. Obviously Sony still has to okay it. They're the ones putting money out, and it's going to cost them money to port it to the other places. But this is showing you that people, like, it's just releasing in one place is not enough anymore for games with the budgets that they have and the desires that they have to be out there and be big, right? Having a great idea is cool, making a great game is cool, but if you limit it nowadays, you're kind of just shooting yourself in the foot, man. And I think this is just another step where we're seeing Sony kind of expand away from.
They're pivoting, sir.
I mean, this is what it is. Again, whether they brought it up to the dev or whether the dev brought it up to them, either way, Sony okayed this, and Sony is saying, all right, let's go ahead and let's do this. We need to kind of push it out. We're not trapping our games on one box. And they've told us as much before, right? They've told us multiple times at this point, but it's like this strong case of denial that exists where nobody wants to accept what they're saying, and they're trying to all like reframe the words that they say. Well, he didn't really like this, and then it's like, yeah, no, we didn't mean it like that. We're putting Helldivers 2 on Xbox. Oh, we didn't mean it like that, but we're putting Lego Horizon Day on Switch, right? And oh, we didn't mean it like that, but all those games that we funded, now they're coming to Xbox. Like, it's like, this is just another kind of step in the direction of where we all expect gaming to go, right? It's going to be less about the box and more about the talent of the developers, the quality of the game, and how much people are excited about these games. Just like music, just like movies, right?
Yeah.
None of these things are tied to a specific box. None of these things are tied to a specific location. Obviously, yes, you still have streaming services that make their own movies and or buy these deals, but even then, they're still putting things out in other places, and they're releasing in theaters when they were supposed to be streaming stuff. Like, we just saw, Doodle and I just saw that movie Eternity, which is actually a really, really, really good movie. It was at the theaters, but it's an Apple film, right? Like, Apple made the movie, but they put it in theaters, right? Because as much as it's cool to be like, oh, this is our movie, it's on our streaming platform, they also realize that putting it out in the theaters brings more hype to the movie, and then when it comes to the streaming service, they do get more eyes on it, right? It's all about content being available as much places as possible. And I think this is just heading in that direction, man. We keep seeing it. It's still happening. And it's just like, the caveat. I can't wait to see what the caveat is on this one, right? I can't wait to see.
Are you suggesting the goalpost moving? Because you're using a very very strong word with caveats. I just think that it's goalpost moving or
you haven't
dancing.
planted the goalpost ever. It's just attached to their shoulders. They're just constantly carrying the goalpost. They never put it down. It's just always moving in one direction. It's a good time, but listen, I mean, this is nothing but good news. As funny as it is for this, for them, it's nothing but good news for the team, right? It's the people making this game are going to have more eyes on it, and whether it's good or bad, we don't know that part, but
right.
It's definitely going to have more eyes on it.
Scheduled for 2027, so they have plenty of dev time, before the game releases. You know what? See, you brought up a great point, but what I'd like to do for some additional context is just read directly from the Push Square article, because what it does is it almost seems like the author is a little upset, a little perturbed in the way he wrote the article. So let me read it, folks, so you can understand where I'm coming from with this. So, again, the article was written by Sammy Barker. Came out 4 hours ago on pushsquare.com. I'm going to add this article to the show notes. So, of course, if you want to click on it and read it for yourself, by all means, give it a click. But I want to read directly from the article. Now, it has here update. Thursday, December 4th, 2025, 8 a.m. And it goes on to say, we assumed when the new footage for the Godslayer debuted earlier today that it was no longer part of Sony's China Hero Project programming. That's primarily because the games that release from that are involved in, of course, the China Hero Project are normally exclusive to PlayStation and occasionally do go to PC. Well, according to the article, it says the game was also announced for the Xbox Series X and S, which is unusual, as a China Hero Project title typically deploys as a timed console exclusive for the PlayStation 5. Recent examples of this include Lost Soulside, for instance, which launched on PS5 and PC only. But dev Pethia Games reached out to us to confirm that the Godslayer is, in fact, still part of the China Hero Project. We asked how Sony is supporting the project, and a spokesperson told us, quote, Sony is assisting the project with some game development support, marketing, and publishing. More information is explained on their official website. And the last two paragraphs go like this, folks. We asked whether this will be a period of timed console exclusivity and what benefits Sony is getting in return for its investment and support, but the studio could not comment at this time. And this is where it gets a little, I guess you could see where he's a little perturbed. It says, well, there you have it. The Godslayer is still part of the China Hero Project, despite it seemingly being a full-blown multi-platform release at this stage. I mean, look, here's the thing. There is a little game that you may or may not have heard of, see money, called Arc Raiders. Apparently it's good. It's doing really gangbuster numbers on PC, and of course I'm being facetious. But here is the interesting part. When you go to the console numbers, Sony only has a pinch of an edge on Xbox. Now, why is that important to this conversation, you might ask? Well, here's the answer to that. It just goes to prove that the so-called 85 million plus consoles in the wild versus I think the last number was, it's been reduced down to like the 19 million Xbox Series X and S consoles. Every week it goes. It keeps dropping. People are burning their consoles.
People are setting them on fire.
All jokes aside, there are 85 million consoles shipped for PlayStation. That's a big deal. Okay, it's a really big deal. That's a lot of consoles. They're going to hit 100 million consoles again. Great work for them. Xbox has, I would say, anywhere between 35 and 40 million consoles out in the wild between the X and the S. That's literally half. That's less than half. And this is why it's important to this conversation, C Money. And I want to kind of just, get your opinion on this. The reason why you're starting to see things like the China Hero project do things differently isn't, I mean, it could, like you said, could be a dev thing that they were asked Sony or required Sony, but I think ultimately this is a Sony thing. Sony
They're
understands,
publishing it. So
well, they're publishing the game, and they also understand that their audience, their hardcore audience, not the normies, not the 85+% of those gamers who only buy 2 games a year on the PlayStation 5. I'm talking about the us, the other side, the hardcore. They cannot survive with just them buying the games. It doesn't work like that. That's not the way business works. They are investing in these companies. They are sending over development help. They're publishing. They're doing the advertising. They're spending money. And they're spending money because they want to make money. And again, you ask, how does Arc Raiders work into this? It's not a one-to-one. It's just a piece of context that I'm using. Arc Raiders is one of the hottest games of 2025. And we know what the gangbuster numbers are on Steam. We're not talking about Steam. We're talking about the consoles, PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X and S. And right now, the PlayStation 5, even though it has double the amount of consoles available, it only has a pinch of an advancement of how many players are playing on PS5 versus the Xbox. That right there is why Sony is going to start putting more of these China Hero projects on Xbox and launching them at the same time. Because you said it. You said a great point. If a game launches this year and then a year later it launches for Xbox, it's not going to sell well because the zeitgeist is gone.
Yep.
Right? So let's get your thoughts on that. On the, what we just talked about, whether or not, something like Arc Raiders kind of just lets people know that it's not, even though there's disparaging numbers from 85 million consoles to 40 million consoles, the player base, it's not equaling the same thing.
No. I mean, we've talked about it. I mean, we know that those 84 million consoles or 90 million, whatever it is, it could be 150 million at this point. It doesn't make a difference. None of those gamers are the hardcore, only the very first part, right? The people who buy the console in like the first 2 years of the console, that's going to be your most hardcore group of people. Everything after that is really filling out your casual list, right? And we already know the PlayStation is the casual box. And when I say that, and again, and I want to be very clear because I'm a part of that group. I'm talking about people who don't only play. I'm sorry, that don't play many games. And when I say I'm a part of that group, is that I play Fortnite as well as everything else. But like, there's a lot of people who will only play Fortnite, right? There's a lot of people who only play Call of Duty. There's a lot of people who only play Madden, right? Only play NBA 2K, right? So like, they're casual in the sense that they're not a gamer that's going to play a bunch of different games. They have a game they love and they just play it. That may be because that's just their favorite game and they want to play it always. Maybe they don't want to spend any more money on gaming, or they can't spend any more money on gaming, so they just stick to the one game and that's it. But either way, at the end of the day, we know that those people are benefiting. Like, let's be clear. Like, PlayStation gets a massive benefit for being the casual box because they are getting all those Fortnite players, Call of Duty players, Madden, all these people, and all these games that these people are attached to have microtransactions, right? So they're spending a lot of money. That's why Sony makes so much money, right? Because they do have the majority of players as far as casual gamers are concerned. They're there. That's the box they choose. When people say, "Oh, well, you're getting a new console," yeah, I'm gonna go get the next PlayStation or whatever. It's just part of what they do, right? It's the hardcore gamers, is the more discerning gamers, is more the gamers in the know who are the ones who kind of have an idea of what's different and what's special about Xbox and why they might go there versus somewhere else. And that's to show you that, you know, the numbers are actually pretty close between the hardcore players who are choosing PlayStation because they actually want PlayStation versus the people who buy Xboxes, right? And you know that because you end up with these games like Arc Raiders, which is, you know, it is becoming a, you know, a zeitgeist game, right? A game that is kind of in the moment, and we'll see how long that goes, right? Like how far that goes, how long it stays in the zeitgeist, right? How long it can ride this bubble. Is it going to be a Call of Duty or a Fortnite and always stay in rotation, or at some point are we going to see Arc 2 because the fan base drops off? We don't know that, but just knowing that this is a game that's not free to play, you got to buy this game. And when you see the fact that out of 84 million possible buyers, and then let's call it 25 or 30 million, you know, possible buyers on the Xbox, this roughly the same amount of people are buying this game and playing it. I mean, it does show you that at the end of the day, when it comes to the core games, right? So all these games that are being made that are not the zeitgeist games, right? Not the games that are the forever games that people love. They're competing for those hardcore dollars, right? It's the hardcore players, it's the more than casual players who buy multiple games in a year. That's where they're competing with. And when they look at that number is much smaller than the 84 million would want to, you know, make you believe, or even the 30 million. I mean, let's be clear, there are still casual people on Xbox as well, right, who just they prefer Xbox, right? They prefer the controller, they prefer Game Pass or whatever it is. So that's why they use that box as their box of choice. But they're also not going out there and buying so many games, right? Like every game that comes out is not selling 20, 30 million copies on Xbox, right? So you're in the same boat. It's just that on as a core level, right, where the more hardcore gamers are, you see them, they're right around the same. So that's why we always talk about how ridiculous it is that these people are out here saying, oh, they have so many consoles, PlayStation has sold 84, 90. It doesn't matter. All those consoles that are sold do not affect Sony's decision on going ahead and how much they're going to invest in their next first party game. It's not, because what they're going to look at is how many people out of those people bought one of our first party games, and they're going to scale it based off of that, right? And they're going to do it based off the timeline. Well, if this was a part 2, how much did it do in comparison to part 1? Oh, it's doing worse than part 1 did. So that means, does it make sense for us to invest more money on the next game or less money on the next game, right? These are the questions that Sony are going to live by. Not, oh, we have 100 million consoles, so we're going to invest so much more. No. Every console they sell is just more cementing their store, right? The fact that PlayStation is essentially Walmart, right? Like it's a store. That's where the vast majority of people who go to PlayStation just go there to go ahead and take advantage of the free-to-play games and the big games that everybody knows. Everybody else, the numbers are roughly the same between Xbox and PlayStation. That's just the reality of what it is. And that's why you see most of the time these games are either roughly the same, or sometimes Xbox does better. Like I think, what was it, Madden recently was told, like we found out that more people bought it on Xbox than they did on PlayStation. And like,
yes,
at that point you really start to question, like, oh shit, why, how can that happen, right? Like if they have more casual people, why aren't more people over there buying it? But either way, you know, the reason that this China Project Hero game is now going everywhere is the same why everyone else moved away from exclusivity with Sony. They just want their game to be played by the most amount of people possible. And the only way you're going to do that in an effective way in today's world is to drop the game at the same time. Any other version of this, you delay your game 6 months, you delay your game a year, you're old news, man. There's so many games coming out every day. You can't think that your game is going to be big enough to fight twice, right? It has to fight when it first comes out. So the hottest that it's going to be, it has to fight for attention there. And then 6 months later or a year later or 2 years later, it's up against brand new games and you think it's going to still do the same? No. No, history has shown us that it doesn't happen, right? The first group of buyers are the biggest, and then after that, it gets smaller every single time across the board. Obviously, unless you're a game like Grand Theft Auto, right? If you're Grand Theft Auto 6 and you cherry picked which console you were going to come out on, and that would work for them in a weird, for I don't know, they would never do that, but they do it with PC, right? But maybe even that's going to change. We don't even know the reality of that space either. So it looks like, even that Take-Two guy, right, Zelnick, he said the same thing, right? It seems like it's going more towards PC, more open.
Yeah,
this is just the way forward, man. And the sooner we get to everybody being on the same page, we're understanding that the games are the focus, the games are what matter at the end of the day, and where you play them is just based off of what you feel, right? On what you believe is the platform for you, for your own reasons, and not because they lock the game that you love behind their walled garden, right? It's just gonna be better for everybody, better for the devs across the board. That's why it's one of my favorite things that Phil Spencer said when he was talking about the console, the next gen console that they're gonna make. And I think it was on, if I'm not mistaken, I think it was Paris and on
Danny.
Gamer Tag Radio,
Yeah,
who were doing the interview with him. And he said that he wants people to choose the box because of the box itself, what the uniqueness of it, how good is the box,
right.
and whether the box is right for you. That's awesome, right? That's what we want. We want that choice of knowing that, okay, we're picking this box excuse me, to play this game because this is the box I want to play it on. It has the features that I want, it does what I want, it has the power that I want. Not because I gotta buy it here because this is the only place it is, right? Like it's so stupid. Right now things have changed, right? Back in the day when it was all we knew, it was all we knew. But now with this new sense of freedom, this new sense of choice, it's like, no, why limit ourselves, right? Why be boxed in? Let's get them where we want to play our game. So yeah, it's a good time, man. And I'm love seeing it. I love seeing this China Hero Project come out and be like, oh no, we're dropping everywhere. And Sony's funding it. They're not blind. They're
Right.
not, they know what's happening. They're not stupid. They know what they're doing. And this will just keep going. And it'll become the norm at some point. And I'm here for it, man. I'm here for it.